Life of Christ. You missed out on should have came one of the last like 100 weeks on a Wednesday, and you might have found one of those classes. But we finished that last Wednesday, and now we have moved on to our study over the minor prophets, which I think is I'm just trying to think back in my life of all the lessons and sermons that I've heard, and I don't remember a whole bunch of them about the minor prophets, and I don't know if I remember any about someone talking about Obadiah, which might be my favorite word in the Bible or name to say in the Bible because it's just too much fun to say Obadiah. So I hope that remind. I don't know what that'll do for you, but it'll probably get stuck in your head. It's been stuck in mine for like the past month as I've been preparing for and reading over this. But Obadiah is a super, super, super small book. It is the smallest book in the Old Testament. And if you want to go ahead and start trying to turn there, it could take you a while because I know we don't turn there very often. And it's also easy to miss because it's only one page. But the to begin to kind of set our scene for Obadiah, it is it is the shortest one in the Old Testament, but there's so much to it. And if you were here on Sunday, we talked about being all in for Christ, putting all of our eggs into one basket on Sunday morning, and then on Sunday night we talked about Stephen and how Stephen stood up and continued to preach the truth, even though he was facing persecution, ended up being stoned right there at the feet of Saul. And really, when you look at the book of Obadiah and what the book of Obadiah is prophesying and try to warn about, it fits so much into kind of what we talked about on Sunday. Because on Sunday we were talking about being all in for Christ, and what you're going to see with the book of Obadiah and the warning that it's giving is that the Edomites are putting too much hope and too much trust in themselves. They're dealing with the pride issue. Which is the opposite of what we should be dealing with. And so when we start dealing with pride issues, when we start thinking that we are too high and mighty, that we have too much going on, that we're just better than everyone else, we can't be touched, this warning is for us. And I think out of all of the minor prophets, if anything just screams America, the book of Obadiah might just be that book. Because it is no joke, a warning about you think you're high up on this mountain, you think that your city's untouchable, you think that you have all these military advantages because of your height, you think that no one else can ever come and destroy you. Well, just wait, because you're going to be destroyed. And that's kind of the warning that we get from Obadiah. And when you sit there and you think about America, we got the biggest military, we got the best military, we got the oceans kind of protecting us. We don't have to worry about the country to our north and to our south because, boy, we can just wipe them out, no problem. And, boy, we're just bigger, better, and stronger than everybody else. And, wait till you see the Navy SEALs come in and we'll just knock out everybody. Right? Until someone better comes, right? Until we let down our guard, until we get too prideful and we get destroyed, right? And that's what Obadiah is trying to warn the Edomites of. And so the author of or the author of Proverbs, he states that God hates pride, and we know that God is going to hate pride. He's going to hate when we get built up on pride. He wants us to be humbled. So if we have a pride issue, he will humble us on that last day. We want to be exalted on that last day. We don't want to be humbled. And the result of that pride is going to be destruction. You can see that in Proverbs 16 and verse 18. But when we really dive into this book, all of it's going to be talking about the destruction because of the pride of Edom. And we can see this in our own life if we deal with the pride issue, as I just mentioned. The author, as identified, is really easy guess, Obadiah. Okay, well, it's really tough. They really threw us a curveball. The meaning of the name Obadiah means servant of Jehovah, or worshiper of Jehovah. The name is mentioned actually 19 times in the Old Testament. I don't see Mark here. He asked me about it. He'll be here in a little bit, but he was asking how many times it's in there in different names. There's different Obadiahs in the Old Testament. We're not exactly sure exactly which one this is. We don't know a lot about the history or the family, so there's some good educated guesses. If you want, I can share you with those at the end of it. I'm not going to get kind of caught into the weeds tonight. But what we do know about this Obadiah is that he was a prophet of God. We know that he was an inspired writer. We can see that in the first verse of the book. We can also know that he was courageous, and he was willing to deliver this stern message, this message of destruction to the Edomites. As for the date of the book, we have two different dates that we could settle on. You could either pick 845 BC, give or take, and you can kind of see that coming from 2 Chronicles 28. And this would have been Sorry, I got something. This would have been in reference during the reign of Ahaz of Judah, which would have been the 8th century. Not to bore you all with a bunch of history, but to kind of set a reference here. This would have been when Edom and the Philistines kind of went together against Judah. That would have been one of the possible scenarios. The other one would have been a little bit later of a date, which would have been 586 BC, which would have been more into the Babylonian tax on Jerusalem. And again, Edom kind of joined in with Babylon during that and kind of pushed into Judah's downfall. And so those are your two kind of dates. You can pick and choose which one. We're either going in chronological order right here from the start, or we're already off because it's a different date. But the meaning of the book does not change. And so it's one of those two dates. And by the way, I meant to print this off. I did not. I'll bring it next Wednesday, so come back next Wednesday. If you're a visitor and you're like, man, he's throwing out too many dates and references at once, just give me your email after class and I'll send you the outline so you can see all these dates. But I will print it off and bring it next Wednesday. If I don't, y'all can, I don't know, give me a hard time for it. All right, so the purpose of the book, I've already kind of mentioned it, but it was to warn the people of Edom of their coming doom and the punishment that was going to come because of that. And it was also to encourage the folks of Judah to believe in God's deliverance, which is something that we can also remember. If we have a pride issue, God is going to take care of that pride issue. But if we're the ones under attack, if we're the ones under persecution, what is God going to do for his children? He's going to deliver them. And so that is something that Judah also needs to be encouraged about, that they are going to have deliverance. They are going to be rescued. As for the Edomites, does anyone remember who they are the descendants of? Esau. Esau tried to pick a fight with Jacob. Just kidding. It's a good name. Jacob's won once again. I don't know if there's any Noahs in here. Y'all might be able to beat Jacob's. I'm not sure. But Esau and Jacob had quite a little battle. And when you really think about the book of Obadiah, the Edomites are really taking advantage of the situation, and they're kind of laughing at the calamities and laughing at the circumstances and laughing at the tax and helping and encouraging and all these other things as the people of Judah are being attacked. In a similar way, that's kind of how Jacob kind of takes advantage of Esau, because if you all remember, Esau comes in and what is he looking for, or what's going on with Esau whenever the situation takes place? Yeah, he's starving. Well, he's been working all day, and what's he really dying for? What everyone's dying for? Food. But what does he get? What does he get made? Anyone remember? I got two different names. A bowl of lentil soup. Doesn't everyone just want one of those right now? Everyone line up. One of the ladies here is going to make it, and we're all going to enjoy it tonight because we're just so encouraged for it. Must have been really good. I don't know. So he ends up. If you remember, Esau ends up selling his birthright to Jacob, and then Jacob also ends up getting the blessing there at the end. There's this whole feud. And Jacob and Esau had this long feud. Now, later on, years later, they end up coming back together. But just because they come back together doesn't mean that Jacob's people and Esau's people, the descendants of both of them, are going to be together. So they're going to kind of have a spat. They're going to kind of have these issues and these differences all throughout their history. You're going to see it over and over and over again. And that's exactly what this message is bringing, is the Edomites are helping and encouraging and attacking the folks from the lineage of Jacob, of Israel. And God is saying, you all are brothers. You should not be attacking one another. You all should be one. You should be helping them. You should not be shooting down your brothers, but you should be encouraging them. And I think we can take that warning and we can see it right here in our congregations. Congregations should not be fighting with one another. Congregations should be helping one another. Brothers and sisters should not be fighting with one another. Brothers and sisters should be encouraging one another. And so we can't get caught up in pride. We also need to remember that we are brothers and sisters in the fellowship, brothers and sisters in the family of God, and we need to be working with one another and encouraging one another and helping one another, and not laughing at people's calamities and laughing at their issues. Some of the things that you're going to see against the Edomites, some of the things that are going to be prophesied is that they're going to be made small. We'll see that in verse 2. They're going to be greatly despised, also in verse 2. They're going to be brought down. They live up in a high place, which is why it's kind of said this. They're going to be brought down, that's verse 4. They're going to be cut off for eternity, verse 5. They're going to be destroyed, verse 8. That'll come later on in in years, so hundreds of years later. They're going to be dismayed in verse 9, slaughtered in verse 9, cut off forever in verse 10. There's going to be no survivor shall remain, verse 18. Um, and so those are going to be the several different things that is going to be prophesied that will end up taking place. And when you look at Edom, they come from a land of that is going to end up being linked with Herod the Great. And if you remember Herod the Great, you'd have to go all the way back like literally 100 weeks to the beginning of our Life of Christ study. And Herod the Great and that kind of lineage, the Herodians and all those folks of Herod, try to do what to Jesus? Kill him right at the start. And so if you remember, what lineage did Jacob, good name, what lineage did Jesus come from? Judah, right? So who is still fighting in the grand scheme of things? The descendants, as they start to branch off, they still have these issues. They still have these conflicts going on. And so the destruction of Jerusalem, when it happens in 70-ish AD, you're going to see that the where Edom and all of them kind of settle, it actually ends up kind of disappearing, kind of just falls off of history. And so their destruction kind of finally takes place later on. Things that we can see from Obadiah before we jump into the text is that God is going to be sovereign. He is going to do what He says. He is going to be a sovereign God, and He's going to hold the power in life. It's not us that has it; it's Him that has it. The second thing that we can learn is that there is a lot of danger in having pride. There is a lot of danger in relying in yourself. It is also the third thing that we can see, which I think is a huge thing for us today as well. But God cares about how you treat other people, and He specifically says that in Obadiah because in the grand scheme of things, it's later on in the book. I don't know if we'll get to it this evening, but basically, it's saying you are going to be rewarded as you have treated other people. You are going to be how you treat other people. That's exactly how you are going to be treated. And we can see bits and pieces of that in the New Testament, which Obadiah is actually not quoted in the New Testament unless you kind of look in Revelation, and then there's one possible place where it could be quoted. But when you look in the New Testament, God says if you show a lack of forgiveness towards others, you're going to be shown a lack of forgiveness. And so you can kind of see similar principles going on there. So as we actually dive into to the book of Obadiah, we're going to start right there in verse 1. I thought about saying chapter 3 and verse 1. I didn't want to be mean. There's no chapters. There's just one. And so there's only verses. So if I say one, it's just verse 1 or verse whatever it is. But if you want any of the background, any of the history, just kind of went over, there's a lot of references that you can pull from. There's a lot of Bible verses that it pulls from. And I obviously did not go through all of them because I don't want to get everyone just completely lost. But if you want the outline, let me know. I'll email it to you or I'll print it off next week. But as we begin, it starts off in verse 1 of Obadiah. It says, the vision of Obadiah. Thus says the Lord God concerning Edom. So from the very beginning, people want to theorize about who is Obadiah, which Obadiah is it, because there's different ones. You can kind of narrow it down to 3 different Obadiahs, but there's different ones that it could possibly be. We're not 100% sure. But in the grand scheme of things, who is it really coming from? God, right? And so we don't need to be consumed. We don't need to fight and just, lay down a hammer on which Obadiah is it, because in the very beginning it says, thus says the Lord God. So who's really saying it? Who's it really coming from? It's coming from God. And we need to remember that. And it's concerning Edom, which we just talked about, the descendants of Esau, so the Edomites. And it says, carrying on in verse 1, about halfway through, it says, we have heard a report from the Lord, and the messenger has been sent among the nations, saying, arise, and let us rise up against her for battle. So right from the get-go, you kind of see that the Lord is saying this concerning Edom, and there's been a report. And if you think about this, we talked about it on Sunday night, but when Jesus ascends up to the throne of God, what does He do? He sits at the right hand. When we look at the story of Stephen, when Stephen looks up towards heaven, when he gazes up towards heaven, what does he see the Lord doing? Standing. The Lord's watching. The Lord is still observing. He's not just gone up to heaven. He's gone away with. He's not doing anything anymore. Stephen says, I see the Lord standing. And we can theorize and we can make our best guesses or our opinions on maybe what exactly that is trying to get across. But what I think it does show is that the Lord is still paying attention. The Lord is still active. The Lord is still watching. In my opinion, I think it shows that God is it has to be, oh man, he is watching after his children, and how proud he has to be of Stephen going all the way to the point of death. And so here he gets this report and he says, "Arise, we're gonna rise up against battle, and we are going after the Edomites." Now the Edomites, as I mentioned earlier, live up in this super high cliff, and so they have the advantage in a military standpoint. When you go back, I'm a big World War II buff, like Pacific War. I could just watch like World War II in color for like hours. That would probably put half y'all to sleep. I love it. Dale loves it. We'll have, I don't know, I don't know. We'll have like a World War II in color party. I don't know. Anyways, I love it. When you think about that, one of the biggest things in all of those battles, especially when they were trying to do like island hopping and stuff like that in the Pacific Wars, was you got to get to the top. You got to get to the top. You got to get to the top. Because if you get to the top, you have the vantage point, and then you can see the enemy coming up. You can shoot down at the enemy. You can do all these things, right? Whoever's coming up the mountain has the disadvantage. If you're at the top of the mountain, you have the advantage because you can see everything below you, and no one can attack you from above, especially during this time because they didn't have drones and planes, right? So Obadiah, the Edomites are up there in this cliff. They think they have all the power in the world. No one can touch them. They're up there in the cleft of the rock. And so it says in verse 2, "Behold, I will make you small among the nations." Right? So right there from the get-go, oh, you think you're big. You think you're tough. You think you're better than else. The Lord's saying, I'm going to make you small among the nations. It says, "You shall be greatly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you." That is one of those verses that you can circle, highlight, underline, put it wherever you need. If you feel that you have a pride issue, that right there is exactly what pride can do to you. What can pride do? It can deceive your heart. It can make you think you're in a real good spot. It can make you think you've got everything going on. It can make you think that you can handle any single circumstance in the entire world. The Edomites did, but that what they forgot was that the power comes from the Lord, right? And that He is going to be in control. And so our power is nothing compared to His. And so it says that the Edomites, this pride that they have in their heart, it has deceived them. And it says, "You who dwell in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, you say in your heart, who will bring me down to the ground? Though you ascend as high as the eagles, and though you set your nest among the stars, from there I will bring you down, says the Lord." So as you think about the Edomites, and you kind of try to picture this in your head, the Lord is saying, oh, you dwell in the clefts of the rocks. Oh, your habitation is high. Oh, and you even say in your heart, who will bring us down to this ground? They were so prideful. They thought they were untouchable, invincible. Can you imagine the gut punch or the distress that had to be in their heart when the first Edomite went down? And they said, maybe we aren't invincible up here. Maybe we can't just do whatever we want just because we have the higher ground. Maybe there is someone better and stronger and more powerful than us. Maybe the Lord does control all the power and it's not actually us. Could you imagine the gut punch to their pride and how humbling that had to be when they see the first person go down? So it goes on in the beginning of verse 4, and I really like this. It says, "Though you ascend as high as the eagle, and though you set your nest among the stars, from there I'll bring you down." It just really gives this beautiful example. You could be on the top of Mount Everest, which is probably about what they felt like, right? The highest place on earth. Boy, they just feel like they're just on the very top. But that's the place I'm going to bring you down because that's where you feel the most secure. Because that's where you put all your pride. That's where you put all your eggs in your basket. Instead of putting your eggs in the basket that is Christ and the basket that is God and trusting in Him and hoping in Him, you've now put all your eggs into your own self. You put all your eggs into your geographical location. And in verse 5, it gives us this I guess analogy you could say, this example. It says, "If thieves had come to you, if robbers by night, oh how you will be cut off. Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If grape gatherers had come to you, would they not have left some gleanings?" When you start to think about this, I don't know if anyone here has ever had their house broken into, but if someone breaks into your house, do they literally take 100% of everything? No, not unless they are like really top notch, I guess, right? They're not taking everything. They might look at your couch and be like, I don't even want that couch. I'm not even going to steal the couch, right? Maybe look at the TV. They're like, I want a nicer or a newer TV, right? I don't know. But they're not going to take everything. And that's what the Lord is trying to get across here. He says, if thieves were to come to you, they're not even taking everything. If someone goes and they gather grapes, they're not taking 100% of everything. There's going to be things left over. But then when it gets into verse 6, it says, "Oh, how Esau shall be searched out, how his hidden treasures shall be sought after." So it's going to be looked through, it's going to be gone through. Verse 7, it says, "All the men in your confederacy shall force you to the border. The men at peace with you shall deceive you and prevail against you. Those who eat your bread shall lay a trap for you. No one is aware of it. Will I not in that day, says the Lord, even destroy the wise men from Eden and understanding from the mountains of Esau?" Verse 9, it says, "Then you mighty men, O Taman, shall be destroyed to the end that everyone from the mountains of Esau may be cut off by slaughter." What the Lord is trying to get across here is if someone breaks in your house, they're not stealing everything. If someone goes to gather a bunch of grapes, they're not getting 100% of everything. There's going to be things left over. When I'm coming to destroy, I'm coming to take everything. It's completely gone. You're gone away with. There's nothing left. It's 100% gone. Everything's being destroyed. You think you're mighty. You think that you're untouchable. You think you're invincible. Just wait until I take part in this. Just wait until I put an end to this. And then it's all gone. 100%. Not going to be 99.9. There's not going to be, there's nothing to it. It's all going to be cut off for slaughter. It's all going to be destroyed. Any questions so far or thoughts, concerns, completely lost? Thinking like, I've never read this book. If you've never read this book, go home and read it like 3 or 4 times. It's literally like 5-10 minute read. I mean, you go read it a couple times, listen to it online for free, I'm sure. It's a great book, though. Any questions, though? All right. It's one of the cities, or if you look back at it, it's going to be one of their more major cities, and it's really kind of going after, it's like another reference to all of Edom or all the Edomites. And so what it's really saying is, "Oh, you mighty men of like X city, you shall be dismayed." So you're going to, so it'd be like, I don't want to use Nashville. That doesn't feel right for Tennessee. DC, I guess you could Washington, DC, I guess you could say. So if it's going after America, like, "Oh, you of Washington, DC, you think you're tough, you think you're mighty, here comes the Lord to wipe it out." And so that's going to be wiped out as well, which I do think works very well in America, because I do think that we put, I think you can see this all across Western culture, but I think we put way too much trust in ourselves and way too little into God. So good question. I knew you were going to have one soon. Verse 10. Now this is where we really get into like the actual bulk and the actual where the first 9 verses were coming from. In verse 10 it says, "For violence against your brother Jacob, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off for forever." Now when you think about Jacob, how many sons did Jacob end up having? 12, right? And now there's a lot of things that happen with the 12 sons, but Jesus ends up coming from that lineage, right? He ends up coming from Judah, right? And so when you think about this, Edom is putting these attacks against the brothers of Jacob. It's going against essentially the lineage that is Jesus. And it all goes back to that original thing. Can you imagine this entire Obadiah may never be penned if it wasn't for that lentil soup and the stealing of the birthright. When you really sit back and you think about it, because this whole feud between the two really started once the birthright was taken. And that might be a little far-fetched to say that, because the Lord is still going to write these things. But when you think about why the book of Obadiah is written and why this warning is coming, it all started with a bowl of lentil soup, which is quite crazy to think about. How something so small can turn into someone willing to sell their birthright, how it can come into different blessings, and then how it can just create this huge divide and all these wars and all these different things that happen, all because one small thing happened. Think about if Jacob just wanted to take care of his brother and just gave it to him and didn't ask him to sell the birthright. There's just so many different things that could happen. It's just crazy when you think about the very, very small thing that just kind of set everything off. And so it says that shame is going to cover you and you shall be cut off forever. Verse 11, it says, "In the day that you stood on the other side, and the day that strangers carried captive his forces, when foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, even you were as one of them. So to set the scene is kind of what is happening. Uh, the people of Judah are being attacked, and that's why there's those two different dates, because the folks of Israel get attacked numerous times, and there's several different battles that this very well could be. But what we are gathering from Obadiah is that they are being attacked, and the Edomites, instead of helping their brothers, the descendants of Jacob, instead of helping them survive and get out of this, they are instead blocking the roads. They are instead pushing the lineage of Jacob, the folks of Judah, back into war. Could you imagine? Here you are fleeing this war, and you're like, oh no, back in there, right? Let me hold them and let me wave, the enemy over here so they can be captured, they can be tortured, so they can be whatever. And as you can see in verse 11, it says, In the day that stranger carried captive his forces, when foreigners entered the gate," right? So when someone from a foreign land came in and they cast lots for Jerusalem, even you were as one of them. They're teaming up with the enemy. They're coming in with the enemy, and what's going to end up happening to the Edomites is these people that they've teamed up with, it's going to end up being their destruction. They've kept bad company. They've picked the wrong side, and the company that they have picked is essentially going to be the reason that they end up falling in later years. It says in verse 12, "But you should not have gazed on the day of your brother and the day of his captivity, nor should you have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction." I'm going to break this. I'm going to go through the rest of verse 12, then we'll break it down. "In the day of their destruction, nor should you have spoken proudly in the day of their distress." When I look at verse 12, I think about a lot of people in the workplace. I think about a lot of people in the world today. Put this into American language, I guess, here real quick. You should not have looked upon your brother whenever he was struggling. You should not have just sat back and watched as your brother did X, Y, and Z. I don't know, got picked on in school, got bullied, got whatever it may be, right? Got persecuted, whatever it could be. You should not have just sat there and watched. Then it also goes into, as well, in verse 12, "Nor should you have rejoiced over the children of Judah." Why were they rejoicing? Oh, look at them. They're getting beat up. Oh, look at them. They're losing. Oh, look at them. They're getting, I can't stand those guys. I'm glad someone's taking care of them. Let's help. Right? And it's you're kicking your own brother and your own sister as they're down is essentially what's going on. And so instead of trying to pick up your brother and sister, you're like, they had that one coming, didn't they? Boy, they're being brought low. That could never be us, right? And when we think about Western culture, when we think about America, do we not look at other countries that have all these war issues and be like, it never happened here? Try that in America. It never happened. You look over towards the Middle East and you see all these different bombings and all these other different things that take place, and there's just constant war in some of these countries. That can never happen here, right? Until someone crosses the ocean and brings it here, right? I mean, it very well could happen. We think we're high and mighty. Well, wait until there's a better country. Wait until there's a stronger country, right? We're not immune to this. It very well could happen to us, especially if we do not have humbleness in our hearts. It says, nor should you have spoken proudly in the day of their distress. Kind of what we just talked about. This could never happen to us, just kind of casting them down. It says, you should not have entered the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Indeed, you should not have gazed on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor laid hands on their substances in the day of their calamity. You should not have stood at the crossroads to cut off those among them who escaped, nor should you have delivered up those among them who remained in the day of distress. What are all these folks of Edom? What are all these Edomites doing? Participating. And what are they participating in? Evil. Are they technically the ones starting the fight? No. Are they getting held just as accountable as the folks starting the fight? Yes.
Because they were brothers.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's realistically going to be even worse because they are brothers. Dale.
Just feel like if somebody broke into your house, your brother standing outside cheering them on and
That's a good point.
taking, asking if they can have the big screen TV because they're participating and taking subsidies. So they're actively participating with what's going on.
Yeah, it's a good point that Dale brings up. It's like your brother going outside and just, telling them where to loot stuff, I guess, where to stake stuff. And when you said that, it's the first thing that comes to mind. It's like you have a neighbor next to you that you really, really trust, and you let them, come over and they let your dogs out, or they like watch on your house while you're out of town or whatever. And they know where a secret key is for your house because it seems like everyone has a special key that they keep outside for whenever you lock yourself out of your house, which I did on the first day that we bought our house. Funny story, I had to call a locksmith, didn't have that key hidden yet. Literally the first day we bought that house. It's awesome. Guy didn't believe us that we bought it. Um, but it's literally like your neighbor. It's like, oh, you're trying to break in and steal everything? I know where the key is. And like, let me let you in. And we'll all take the plunder. We'll all get this together, right? And we'll all be victorious. They thought they were too strong. They thought they were too powerful to fall, is what it really amounts to. And just, Dale.
Well, you see them carrying a grudge, right? I mean, going all the way back to the beginning, the Edomites, being the children of Esau, looked back and said, well, all that should have been ours. Esau was the older brother, and that birthright should have been ours, and that blessing should have been ours. The Messiah should come through our bloodline instead of through Jacob's. And so you see them carrying that grudge throughout history, right through generations.
Yeah.
It's harmful.
Yeah. And I think Dale brings up a good point when you think about them carrying it throughout generations. I'm sure there is several of us here that have this. I can think of different examples in my life. Just because so-and-so in your family has an issue with so-and-so from like 70 or 100 years ago does not mean that you need to hate their like great grandchild, or whatever it may be. It sounds really dumb as I say it, doesn't it? Yet that happens. So-and-so hurt my so-and-so that's like 4 lineages off from me, and so I'm going to hold a grudge against them. And that's even more so when you think about the Edomites with the folks of Judah. I mean, you're talking about years. And when you get down to like the Herodians and stuff like that, all the folks of Herod, you are hundreds of years away from that, and they're still holding it. And we can hold grudges for a long time. These folks are holding grudges for year after year after year, all because it all started literally with someone selling their birthright over a bowl of soup. Oh, how something so small can create such a huge, massive divide. And so now, because of that pride, because of that grudge, because of the I would even say jealousy, I guess you could say, because they're not getting what they think that they should have. Now they are actively participating in other people attacking them. Now they're actively participating in other people ransacking their land. Now they're essentially helping. They're pushing back, as you can see in verse 14. They stood at the crossroads to cut off those among them who were escaping. And so, well, we're not really going in and killing anybody. Yet they're like standing back at the crossroads and like, you're not coming past this line, So you're going to get circled. You're going to get caught up by the enemy. They're going to push you back towards it. When it comes down to this, what should they have been doing? Helping them. When you really think about this, they're going to be cut off for forever. All these different things are going to happen. They're going to fall from their high place. But when you start to look at verse 12, it says, but you should not have gazed on the day of your brother in the day of his captivity. What they should have done is, as soon as their eyes saw what was taking place, what should they have done? We need to go help our brothers and our sisters. That's still our kinfolks. We still need to go help them because that's still God's people, just as they should have viewed themselves as God's people, right? Now they're missing all of that, right? Then you go into the next part. Nor should you have rejoiced over the children of Judah. You shouldn't rejoice in anyone's failing. And I think you see that all throughout the world today. Someone at your work doesn't get a promotion. Yes. And I didn't want them to get it anyways. Right? Someone does get it that you don't really like, and you're like, can't believe they're getting a step ahead of me. I can't believe. Why do they get the good things and I don't? Right? That's just a couple examples. You can see it all over. They should not have rejoiced over what was happening to the children of Judah. What should they have done? Should have brought sorrow. When someone is facing pain and affliction, should that bring us rejoicing? It should bring us what? Sorrow. What are we supposed to do for our enemies? Everyone's favorite thing. Pray for your enemies. Isn't that the easiest thing to do? It's so easy, right? It's very easy to say, very hard to do, right? Could the Edomites have learned from that? They could have, right? We can learn from that as well. pray for our enemies. We shouldn't be rejoicing over their calamities. We need to be praying for our enemies. Nor should he have spoken proudly in the day of their distress. Should we ever be speaking proudly like that? Absolutely not. Now, can we have, I think pride's not a good word for it. Can we have confidence in the fact that we are going to be overcomers of this world if we're a Christian? Yes. Can we speak boldly because we know that that is true if we are followed and we are cleansed by the blood of Christ? Yes. Does that make us better than other people? Not in an earthly sense. We're better off, though. And why are we better off? Because we have a Savior that is making us better off. That does not make us better on this earth, though. What it makes us is it means we have more knowledge than the person next to us about salvation. We need to be telling them about that. And if we're not telling them about that, why are we not telling them about that? Verse 13, you should not have entered the gate of my people in the day of their calamities. So why are they entering the gate of the descendants of Jacob during this calamity? They're going to help. Why should they have been entering the gates in this calamity? Reinforcement has arrived, right? That's why they should have been there. We're coming. Don't worry. We're coming to help. This isn't going to happen, right? You're still part of our family. You're still our brothers and our sisters. And it says, going on in verse 13, indeed, you should not have gazed on their afflictions. They're just sitting there watching it. They're just sitting there enjoying this. It's like they're watching a movie. Nor laid hands on their substance. So now they're taking the things. Not only are they participating in making sure that they can't leave, participating in the downfall, encouraging it, watching it, enjoying it, speaking proudly, all these different things. What are they also doing? Taking hold of the substances. Well, if someone's going to leave that there, I guess I'll go ahead and just take that for myself. I think I'll just go ahead and take advantage of the situation as well. Do we see that in our world today? Boy, some things get sideways and people are like, I'm taking advantage of the situation. You see it all across towns, and this is not meant to get political, but you can see it all across towns in America, in other countries, and all these other places. And all of a sudden, all these things are going on, and places shut down downtowns. And one of the first things that people do is, it's a good time to go steal stuff because there's no police ever coming to arrest me for this, and I can steal it, and I won't get caught. Is that what we should be doing to one another? Absolutely not. We shouldn't be stealing in the first place, but we really shouldn't be taking advantage of circumstances like that either. We should be helping to make sure that God's word is spread. We already talked a little bit about verse 14, but they were standing in the crossroads and they were cutting those folks off from leaving. Verse 15, for the day of the Lord upon all the nations is near. Circle, highlight, underline. Remember this in your life. Because the day of the Lord, the day of his return, is still near. Is it going to happen in our physical lifetime? Possibly. Could it happen in our grandchildren's lifetime? Possibly. Could it be several generations away, 5, 10 generations away? Possibly. Could it be tonight? Yeah. Did the Edomites think they were ever going to fall from that? No. And it's what I mentioned at the very beginning. What was their thought? What was going through their mind whenever the first Edomite fell? Like, oh, I didn't think this could ever happen. They weren't prepared. They had put all their trust, all their hope in themselves instead of the Savior, right? Well, if we do that same thing in our life today and we put all of our hope and all of our trust in ourselves, when that second coming does arrive, or when you draw your final breath, either or, you're going to have that same response as the Edomites had whenever that first person fell of maybe I don't have this. Maybe I put my trust in the wrong place. Maybe my pride is an issue and I've put it in the wrong area. And now it's what? Too late. The battle's already there. It's already at hand. The answer is already expected of me, and I'm not ready. I'm not prepared. Continuing in verse 15, you can circle highlight on this as well. I actually did in my Bible, so y'all can actually see this because I say it all the time. As you have done, it shall be done to you. Does that still apply in the New Testament? We read passages in the New Testament. Treat others as you wish to be treated. It's also can be a challenging one to live out. Praying for your enemies can be tough. Treating others as you wish to be treated can be rough because it's not always the first thing that goes through our mind. Am I treating this person the way that I wish they would treat me? Sometimes we just start treating people the way that we think we should just treat people, and we don't think about, would I like it if someone treated me that way? And when you think about the Edomites here, would they have liked this if the descendants of Jacob treated them like this? Like, say you switch their roles. Say the folks of Judah are up there in the hill, and it's not the Edomites. The Edomites are the ones being persecuted. Would they have liked it if all the descendants of Jacob had helped push them back up the road into captivity? Would they have liked it if the descendants of Jacob had started to plunder their stuff? Would they have liked it if they laughed at their calamities? I bet they wouldn't have. They probably would have been upset about it because they don't want to be treated that way. But yet, how are they treating their brothers and their sisters that exact way? It says in verse 16, "For as you drank on my holy mountain, so shall all the nations drink continually. Yes, they shall drink and swallow, and they shall be as though they had never been." They're gone. They're done away with. There's nothing left of it. I'm going to save the final 5 verses for next week. So if you're a visitor, I do apologize you missed that. But there's a lot that we can dig into in verse 5, and I don't want to miss it because we only have 10 to 15 minutes. But things that you can take from Obadiah as you look at this. I see some baseball guys over here, I'm assuming, right? Baseball? Okay, what positions are we working with? First? I played second. All right, we'll field some ground balls in the parking lot after this. Right? I'm assuming y'all are here for a tournament. You said you're down for that? I can't hit fungo, though, so watch out. One of the funniest things that ever happened my freshman year when I played high school ball, this team's now won I think 5 state titles in a row. They're really good. But when I was a freshman, they'd won 3 in a row, and they were extremely good. And I've told this story, so our members probably know this. But everyone's like, y'all better move your car behind right field. Don't park over there. They're going to put it through your windshield. They always beat us by like a bajillion, and it's over. And I was so mad. I was like, why are we already accepting defeat? These guys can't be that good. They were that good. They were very good. They did beat us like a drum. But I was like, I'm beating these dudes before I graduate high school. I'm not losing these guys every year. And my junior year, we were finally good enough to start competing with them. And then they didn't want to play us. And so we finally got to play them. Made me mad. My senior year, we finally got to play them. And I was like, this is it. I was like, we only have 2 games against this guy. We may never see him again. I was like, I'm not losing either of these games. I've been waiting for this since our freshman year, and they beat us by, a bajillion runs. And we end up beating them, right? But if we took that mindset that we had our freshman year of we're never got this, we were never going to win. Well, if you take the other flip side of the mindset, if you all approach a game and you say, we're beating every single one of these teams. I don't know if y'all keep with the College World Series, right? There's been a whole bunch of upstates. Anybody think Murray State's going to beat anybody? Well, they sure did, right? Look at all the other teams. And they go through all these different games, and there's upset after upset. You see it in March Madness, teams get upset. You see it in college football, teams get upset. You see it in all these different things in life. When you think you're invincible, when you think that no one can touch you, that is exactly when you're going to get humbled. And if we take that approach in our life and we think that we are too good for Christ, or that we don't need the blood of Christ to overcome this world, or that we can handle every situation by ourselves, or that we can do this, that, or the other by ourselves, there's going to be a day when that answer is going to come up well short of what you need. And that is the last thing you want. Because what you want in your life is to be humbled now so that you can be exalted later. What you don't want is to be exalting yourself now, and then on that final day, what will you be? Humbled later. Do you want to be humbled on Judgment Day, or do you want to be exalted on Judgment Day? Because there's a battle coming, there's a day coming, just as the Edomites had. They'd put all their hope in their geographical location. Can we put all of our hope in America, in our geographical location? And we got 2 oceans on each side, and we're just high and mighty. Best Navy, best military, best everything, right? Who really holds the power? Is it the U.S. military? Boy, the Navy SEALs can be great. You know who's more powerful than any Navy SEAL ever? God. You know who's greater than any military force ever? God. You know who could wipe out any country if he wanted to? God. Who, who thought they were too good that it only got down to 8 people? It was Noah's family. The only ones that heeded the warning. For years, Noah preached and preached and preached as he built that ark. Anyone else get on board? Or was this his 8? Just his 8. Him and his family. Everyone else, flood came. All because they didn't heed the warning. So this evening, go home and read the whole book of Obadiah. Go home and listen. I mean, you can read it literally in like 5-10 minutes. That's not even an exaggeration. It's literally like, I think 20, was it 21 verses? 21 verses. That was my number, by the way, 21. So it's a good number. 21 verses of Obadiah. Go home, read it 2 or 3 times. Meditate on it, because I guarantee you, if we're all honest with ourselves, pride is something that we've either dealt with in our life or we deal with it currently. And if we deal with it currently, we need to be dealing with it swiftly to get it out of our life. Because pride is going to be one of the leading cause to almost every single sin. I think when we look at the sin in our life, we look at the issues in our life, pride is almost always linked to it. It's always because we had too much pride in something is the reason that we're falling into sin. And so if you've got a pride issue or you got whatever, don't think too high and mighty of yourself like the Edomites did. Don't think that you're too high and mighty or too good just because you come from this family or that family, that you're going to be fine on the day of the Lord, that no one can touch you, that everything is great. You've got all this money, you've got this nice house, this nice whatever, that you're all set. We have to work out our own salvation. We have to make sure that we are in accordance to God's will and what God desires from us. And the Edomites were not. And they weren't heeding the warning. And they ended up getting their destruction because they failed to heed the warning. And so the warning this evening is the same warning that's been going on for 2,000 years now after Christ left this earth. The kingdom has been established and he is coming back. You have the warning that you need to be prepared. And if you're not prepared for that, why not be prepared for that? The Edomites never heeded it, never got prepared. They lost the battle. You have the opportunity this evening to heed the warning, accept the warning, put on the right armor. That way, when that day comes, whether it be when you take your final breath or whether it be whenever the Lord returns, you can have full confidence. You don't have to worry about the destruction because you're going to be inheriting something so much more beautiful, and that something so much more beautiful is heaven. So don't fall for the pride of life. Don't fall for feeling too high and mighty in yourself, realizing that the power comes from above, not from within, right? It's not coming from us. It's coming from God. And that's how we need to remember. That's how we need to set our life and set our eyes on that fact that everything is coming from above. He created all this, and he'll put an end to all of this as well. So is there any questions or comments before I just like randomly close it out? We're going to finish the last 5 next week because there's a little bit of prophecy to it. So we'll talk about that. So if you need anything this evening, prayers, or if you want to put on Christ, you are more than welcome to come forward as we stand and as we sing with Brian. Thank you.